Welcome to another vlog. My name is Jacqueline, obviously, and I live in Brooklyn with my boyfriend and two kitties, and I'm here to show you another projects vlog today. So I'm going to catch you up on some of the things I've been working on, some projects I've picked back up, some that I've been putting down for a bit. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. We'll start with the knitting. My Astrogal sweater has seen no progress. None. Not a single stitch since I last talked to you. I have lost a little bit of steam on it, but I really do want to finish it. I just haven't been in the mood to work on it, if I'm being honest, which is so silly because even thinking about it now, I love Brooklyn tweed yarn. I love it. So I don't know why I haven't been working on it. I'm so anxious for spring to get here that I really just I don't know, smaller projects. And it's also the size, so it's just much easier to work on smaller things. So that's the story with the Astrogal sweater, which is just an amazing, super beautiful pattern. I've made a few modifications that I've discussed in previous vlogs, so by all means feel free to go watch those. But yeah, I mean, I'm liking it. I just haven't finished it yet. I haven't even finished the body. I'm on Body Island, as they say, which doesn't really feel like a slog. I'm just knitting in the round, so it is kind of, mindless knitting, which is nice. I just haven't, been working on it. But mostly because I've been working on a new pair of Simple House slippers. I love the Simple House slippers. I wrote an entire post on Patreon dedicated to the Simple House slippers. I've knit at least 5 pairs now. One of them I cannot find and have no idea who I gifted it to. I thought I was knitting it for myself. The Sock Monkey ones, the gray and white marl with the red contrast heel yarn, but I have no clue where they are. I thought I gave them to my sister, but she says no, I did not give them to her, and they're very much my taste, but I have no idea where they are. So goodbye Sock Monkey socks, I guess. But I've started another pair for my mom because the ones I've knit for her in the past are very worn through. I patched up one of them and then the other one got a hole. So I was like, you know what, she wears these enough. I'm just gonna knit her a fresh pair because the first pair I knit her was oh my gosh, I know that was in Brooklyn Knit Folk podcast episode number 2, I want to say. It was definitely on the cover of whatever I was, the thumbnail was. So I knit those a long time ago. They've seen some wear. So she gets a new pair now. And this is yarn that I picked up at Rhinebeck. It's from Battenkill Fiber Mill, the same yarn that I used to knit up my rug sweater. I'll be honest, the yarn colors did not knit up how I thought they were going to, but my mom says she likes it and that's what matters. It's got blues and oranges, and then there are these kind of speckles of hot pink here and there. So the colorway looked really fun and it was fun to knit. It just didn't knit up as I expected it to. It's a very highly variegated yarn, and you guys, this is such an easy pattern. I really could not recommend this more. So, Simple House slippers designed by Simone A, aka Temple of Knit on Instagram. So I have one of them finished, and then the other one is my commute knitting. The other one I've made quite a bit of progress. Here's the yarn cake. You can see how I'm a little bit surprised about how it's knitting up. I thought it would knit up more blue, but there is quite a bit of orange in it. And I thought that the orange was gonna kind of not stripe it, but variegate more evenly. Maybe it's just the gauge that I'm knitting it at. This is a size 6 needle that I'm using, and it's a 9-inch circular. I have a big pack of 9-inch circulars because that's how I prefer to knit both my socks and my sleeves in the round on sweaters. It's just faster for me. So once you knit, and this isn't giving anything away, there is a paid for version of the pattern, which gives a much more robust additional sizes and so much more information. But the free pattern still exists. And that's what I used when I first started, and it worked out great. So you just kind of knit flat for 40, you cast on 40 stitches, I think. I can't remember for sure, you have to look at the pattern, but you cast on the amount of stitches. It says knit flat garter stitch for 40 round, or 40 not in the round, 40 rows. And then you join it in the round and knit it in the round until you get to the specified length. I just love those hot pink stitches especially. I think they're so fun. So yeah, simple house slippers. That's my main knitting project right now. So I have a half object and I've made a good amount of progress on the second one. And then the other knitting project that I want to show you is another finish object, but not one that I knit. So I started this pattern. I got about halfway through this one. I got to like right where the thumb gusset starts increasing right here. So I got about here. It is a very heavily cabled pattern. I talked about this in my first vlog that I posted on Patreon. It's a beautiful pattern and I really, really wanted the finished object, but I was just not enjoying the process of knitting these. It says it's charted, which I was really relying on, but it's not fully charted. It's got like this part charted, but the thumb gussets are not charted with it. So I was having to like refer to 3 different pages of the pattern in order to knit the like one mitt. And that was just too much faffing for me. I did not enjoy the way that the pattern was written personally, and I'm a graphic designer, so I am quite picky about stuff like that. But I think the pattern is absolutely gorgeous. So I paid my good friend Emily, who was Slow Fashion Rebel on Instagram, but now she's just emily.a.peterson on Instagram. And I paid her to knit these for me as she would a sample knit, because she currently works part-time at Brooklyn General, one of the local yarn stores, and she does a lot of sample knitting for the store, so she's used to that sort of thing. Thank you so much to those of you who reached out offering to sample knit these for me. In the future, I will definitely call upon you guys again if I need it, because like I said, I have a lot of like especially design ideas in my head, and once I kind of get the design going, then I really just don't want to knit it anymore, because the fun part about a design is the designing of it and not really the knitting of it. I want to get to knitting other people's patterns for more of my knitting time. So in the future I might pay people to sample knit my designs for me. But these are the, oh, I didn't even say what these are. These are the Anti-Klein mitts by Emily Green. And it's an all over cabled mitt pattern. I'll try them on for you. And it has this fold down cuff right here, which is really nice in New York winters when it's like really cold outside and you don't want to have even the tiniest bit of your fingers exposed. But I have to have mitts because we need our phones too much for like getting around and stuff like that in New York. So it's kind of a necessity to be able to access my phone. So I have to do the mitts, I knew that. But I like that I can roll them up and make them even warmer. It's just a real bonus of the pattern. It fits superbly, which I figured because it has the same stitches cast on, the same number of stitches cast on as my underwing mitts, my other favorite mitts pattern that I knit, and I love that. So I knew the fit was gonna be really good. I believe there are 2 sizes. This is the smaller size. And the yarn that I used is a Magpie Fibers, and it's like one of her like new, I don't know what the base is called. I can put it on the screen for you though so that you know, but the yarn is just so beautiful. It's not one of these super like MCN type of dealies. It's a little bit more rustic. It's either in the fiber content or I don't know, something about the yarn. When I put it on the screen, I'll let you know, but the yarn is slightly more rustic, so I knew it was gonna have more integrity as far as a mitt goes. My underwing mitts are totally fine, but I did use a single ply yarn as the contrast color for the color work in it, and it does like fuzz. It's definitely got an overall more haloed effect to it, but because I knit it with the main color being a very high twist yarn, it kind of holds it together. It works. So it's not that they're looking bad, it's just that I wanted another pair of mitts in the rotation, and I love the color of these. This is called Tin Roof Rusted. And I believe it's pretty close, if not this, I know it's not the same base that Emily used in the sample, but it's definitely the same color. It was also Magpie Fibers. I think it was just in a different base, because I think the one that the sample used had cashmere in it, and I don't believe this one does. So these are going to be nice and hard wearing, super comfortable. I love the design of the pattern, and I'm so glad that I paid somebody to knit the rest of these for me, because otherwise these never would have seen the light of day as a finished object. So that is the, I was about to call them the Simple House Slippers. No, they are not. This is the Antique Klein Mitts by Emily Green. And I don't think I have a project page up on Ravelry for this one yet, but I will get one up for you. Okay, last knitting project before we get into sewing. And this is not cast on yet. And that's because I only just, well, not just received, a little bit ago, but I've been moving, so it feels like I've just received this yarn for it. So this was very kindly yarn supported by Stacy of Stress Knits Yarn. And this is her gorgeous Dahlia colorway. It's like a mauve color, really. And it has some variegation in it, very light, some like purple, and then there's some like red and orange speckles in areas for a shawl design that I have in mind. So I'm very excited about it. I've never designed a shawl before, and I'm really looking forward to like sharing my process with you along the way about how designs occur to me. Usually it's like one element of it really sticks out in my mind about what I want it to be about. And then I kind of have to fill in the gaps of things that kind of go with this one element that I want to be like the main strong element. You guys know, if you've knit my socks, I generally have like centered patterns, one strong element, and then things that kind of like contribute to the main design. This shawl is no exception. So if you like the designs of my socks, you're probably gonna like the design of my shawl. I'm very, very excited about it. I was super inspired by the headbands that I knit earlier this year for, I guess at the end of last year, for my mom and for my sister. Those, headband with a twist. And it had that not fisherman's rib, but it was like single color brioche, but it was so easy. I was blown away by how easy that stitch pattern was, no purling, and it looked like the squishiest rib you've ever seen in your life, and there's no purling with it. So I was like, I need to figure out a way to use this again. So I have an idea of how to use that not fisherman's rib. I need to look up the stitch pattern, I'm sorry, but it's like a single color brioche, and use that with cables, and I'm just really, really excited about it. So that's what this design is going to grow up to be, and I really cannot wait to cast it on. And once I've cast on a bit more of it, it'll be easier to explain what the design is going to be, because I'm probably going to, I don't know, maybe I won't hide it from Instagram, we'll see. I kind of want to keep it a little bit of a secret while I'm working out some of the details of the design, but you guys will have all of the info from the very beginning, so you'll get all of the behind the scenes. So again, this is Stress Knits in the Dahlia colorway. It's a colorway that she specifically, like when I approached Stacy about the design last year, she kind of came out, I told her I wanted a colorway that was a cross between wine and fig. And this is what she came up with. It's so perfect, so perfect. So soft. And I think it's on her favorite base, if I'm remembering correctly, which is an 80-20 merino and nylon. I debated on whether or not I wanted to add mohair to it, but at the end of the day, adding mohair to a project that already takes 3 skeins of yarn, potentially it might take 2, but it's definitely going to take at least 2. And that's just another expense that a lot of people can't afford, so I just don't want to price other people out of the project. So that's kind of my thinking there. So I cannot wait to cast that on. I think I'm going to be using like a size 4 needle for it. I'm a slightly looser knitter than average gauge, so I'll probably do a 4 or a 5. I'll test out what I think looks best with it. Okay, and now we're going to move on into sewing. I have two projects that I want to show you. One of them is resurrected and one of them is new. And when I say resurrected, I only mean that because when Andrew and I were like in the process of like, I mean, we knew when my lease was up that we were going to move in together, but it's very difficult to like split our time between two different places, and we had to do that because of my cats, of course, and I needed to spend a lot of time there, but I couldn't bring them here because his former roommate was allergic to cats, so it was just like a whole thing. So for me, it's hard to sew with only small chunks of time. I really feel like I need large stretches of time ahead of me to sew. It's a stupid mental thing that I need to get over, and sometimes I'm better about it than other times. So this project has seen like, I can't remember if I showed this on my first update of the vlog that I posted on Patreon or not, but this is just a simple black dress. I've used a bodice pattern from a Simplicity pattern that I like and have worn before. It's the same one that I used for my birthday corset top. And then I've self-drafted this long skirt, which is like a midi length, which is not normally my style. I really wanted a maxi length, but I didn't have enough fabric to achieve that, so I made it as long as I could. So I'm gonna hem it to the longest length I possibly can, and then after that, I'll see how I feel about it later on. I can always make it shorter later. So it has this, for the straps, I'm not gonna try it on fully, but for the straps, it's this contrasting black velvet thread based on this inspiration piece of a ballerina, and I'm going to take that and crisscross it. Sorry, I'm having to look at myself on camera, but crisscross it into this like crisscross design in the front. And I'm really excited about it. Like, I've attached the sleeves already because this kind of comes from the back. This isn't from any sort of pattern, I'm just making this up. But this ribbon comes from the back, and then I've attached it to the front and I've flowed it down the side, like where the armpit, like down to the armpit, and then I'm gonna cross it over my bust. The only thing is it's kind of hard to do this without a dress form, because putting it, like, I can't pin it to myself with it on. I mean, I guess I'm gonna have to try, but it's really hard to do that without it being on, but it's like a very form-fitting dress, so it's hard to do that when, you know, I don't wanna stick myself. But I can't do it without it being on myself or a dress form, because I don't want it to cross the bust in a really weird way. Like, I don't wanna cut my breasts off like too high or too low. It just needs to be like perfectly positioned in order for it to look flattering and not like cut my body across in weird ways. So that's kind of like the holdup with it. Otherwise, I feel like this would have been finished a long time ago. It's a no, it's not gathered. Maybe a little bit. No, it's not supposed to be gathered, but it is accidentally gathered in places. It's just like a fitted circle skirt, and so it's going to be very flowy. It's very lightweight fabric, so I'm excited to revive this. I would really like to finish this. All I have to do is figure out this kind of sleeves and crisscrossing part, but the zipper is inserted, and so after I figure out that, it's just hemming, and then it's done. So I'm resurrecting that project first, but I have a deadline sewing project, which is a new quilt. So Andrew's sister is getting married in April, this coming April. She lives like with her fiance maybe a block away from us, which is so nice because then we get to see them frequently. It's great. When she first moved into her apartment, she fell in love with this Crate and Barrel rainbow rug. And it's not my taste really, but she loves anything rainbow. It's just her thing. And the rug though was pretty expensive for the area room size that she wanted. I believe it was like $1,500 or $2,000 or something like that. So she ended up not getting it, but it was like the rug. She loved it. So at the time, I came up with this idea that I could make her a quilt based on this rug. So I'll insert a picture of the rug. Hopefully I've been showing you this photo so you can see. And then I've been self-drafting this quilt pattern. I wish I could show all of it to you at once. Maybe I'll try to like take a photo and insert it, but I don't know if I can do that. But yeah, so I've kind of self-drafted this quilt to be like the rug that she loves so much. I'll show you a little bit at a time. And there you have it. It's still missing a gray section at the bottom. I can add that later though. So that's the top is almost complete with the exception of adding a gray section at the very bottom of this. So the top came together rather quickly. It was a bit of a mind-bending experience to try to figure out how to construct it because I didn't have any pattern pieces. So I basically just laid out and folded the fabric and eyeballed it until it looked right. And then took a pencil, marked that off, and then added seam allowance and cut out my pattern pieces and then sewed them together. So it required it to be laid out the entire time that I was cutting and sewing the pieces. So luckily it's only 15 pieces though, and they're big pieces, so it didn't take that long. And then once I finished putting it together, including that last gray section, I'm gonna square it off. You can see the edges are all really wonky because like, what grain line for this? I hope it doesn't like warp out of shape too much because none of the pieces are all like, none of them are cut on grain. Grain means that it's parallel to the selvage or perpendicular to the selvage. So, well that's not, it depends on what the grain of the pattern is, but if you cut it on bias or like off of the grain, it can make your pattern stretch out or your final project stretch out in weird ways. So this is not cut on any sort of grain line, it's just like wonkily cut out, but it's a quilt, so it's okay if it's like not perfect, I feel, and I'm not a perfectionist maker, as we all know. So I'm excited about this. The top is almost finished, and then I have just a sheet probably and a whole roll of quilt batting from Quilt Madness 2018, which you guys would remember if you've seen Vlogmas from a couple years ago. So that is my last sewing project that I'm working on. This is some deadline sewing. Like I said, her wedding is in April. It's the first week of April, so I need to get cracking on finishing this. But I have a month. I finished 4 quilts in the span of 6 weeks. I'm pretty sure I can finish quilting 1 quilt by then. Oh, and then my plan is to sew lines in the same angle of the piece to do the quilting in the color that it's in. So for example, if I'm working on this blue section here, I'll sew with this teal in the direction that the pattern piece goes, and then once I get to this light blue section, I'll switch to light blue and sew in the direction that this pattern piece goes. So I think that's gonna look really pretty. I'm gonna start in like the middle of a given section and then work my way out to see how many I need, because that's still quite a bit of quilting. I'd love it if I had time to do like an inch between rows, but I think that would be an insane amount of stitching. Maybe not, you know, maybe it would just take a weekend, because like I said, it's simple, it's not huge. So yeah, but I know she's gonna love it. It might be a little over the top of a present, but I know she's gonna love it, so it's worth it to me. But yeah, that's really it for the projects. You can see my plastic greenhouse pack here because, as you probably know, I'm obsessed with gardening right now. I do have a gardening YouTube channel. It's called Jacqueline is Gardening, but I made the decision recently to transition all of my gardening content into just my Brooklyn Knit Folk channel and also my Jacqueline is Gardening Instagram account, rolling it into just my regular account. It was making me feel like what do I post where? Oh, does this fit here? Does this fit there? And you know what? I've built my whole brand around like myself and my name and who I am. It doesn't make any sense to me anymore to like segment these parts off into different areas. Like it's all me. It's all my interests. It's all what I like. So I was kind of treating it like a diary there for a second, which is, I still like that aspect of it. It's still nice, but I just don't understand. I don't see why it has to happen outside of my normal Instagram account. It's just more stuff for people to follow and more things to like have to keep up with. for other people. It's just simpler if I keep it in the same place. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this projects update. I'll be sure to keep you updated on what I'm up to and when I get started on my new shawl design. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.